Not generally, but
okay. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We are in Taittiriya Upanishad, Bhrigu, the third Valli. How did we get here? We got here after second Valli. And what was second Valli about? Second Valli was about Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. It was about declaring the truth. Now in this particular chapter, having declared the truth clearly, the pathway, the practice, the student is ready. The student is prepared. But until and unless he doesn't apply himself as an individual, as a seeker, until and unless he doesn't apply himself subjectively towards Brahman, accepting that that is his essence, that is who he is, not even his essence, that is who he or she is. There in the Brahman, there is no he or she anyway. But now here I have to use it that way. Now, how to bring that about? We have been listening satsang for so many years. We have gone to the study also, the courses. Still sometimes we become susceptible to reactions in the world. If someone says something, we react. If someone praises us, we react. If things don't go according to our way, we get angry. The student who has come to this point in Bhrigu, he has sorted all this out. If you want to work out, how do I not get angry by studying Bhrigu, get out of this class. It is not for that person. That person who is asking such questions or is having such thoughts in their mind is not qualified to Bhrigu, to study Bhrigu. Then who is qualified to study Bhrigu? He who has completely worked out in his mind that the emptiness of this world, that this world holds no sway over him. He has become subjective. He has intellectually become convinced that the more I get involved in the world, the more I'll be disintegrated. The more I dive into myself, in search of myself, the more, this is only in manner of speaking, the more I'll be collected. For what did the previous chapter say? That unifying principle, that substratum, that kutastha, that unchanging principle, that which is our natural state, it is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. It is the truth, it is ever existing. Jnanam, it is self-knowing. Anantam, it is birthless and deathless. It is unborn and undying. That we are. We hear it. We listen to the teachers. We read the books. But we never take that, what we are hearing, and apply it on ourselves. That's where the truti is. That is where the error is happening. That is why the abidance is not taking place. And yet, you are ever and ever and ever abiding in the self as the self. That is because it is your natural state. But we are not able to experience it. See? And to experience it, we have to do sadhana, simple as that. Without doing sadhana, it will not happen. And what is the sadhana? Shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam. We listen. By listening to satsang, what happens? Now, for this 1 hour, 1.5 hours, whatever the time is, for that period of time, you are not watching serials, you are not interested in your kids or grandkids, you are not worried about the weather, you are not worried about your health, you are not worried about your hunger and thirst, you are not worried about if the world is going to dogs, you are not worried about. You are here for 1.5 hours. Shravanam does this. And when we approach Shravanam with faith and reverence, the knowledge takes place here and now. The attention right here, while listening, your attention will be directed towards the source. But if we come with preformed notions, if we come with without faith and reverence, okay, what is today? Monday. Every Monday, 1.5 hours of satsang. It is nice time to catch up and see everyone's faces. We can't see everyone physically. Oh my God, or we approach this satsang. It is a dose of spirituality. It's not a homeopathic dose with high potency. Put your audio off, please, if you don't mind. Someone's audio is on. It's disturbing. So it is not a homeopathic dose of high potency, and when the medicine is over, you take the Panadol, pain is gone. And when the effect of Panadol is gone, again the pain comes. Is this satsang a dose which keeps us in a beautiful space for half an hour, 1 hour after the satsang, and after that the world again enters our mind? Are we having that type of disposition? Then we are going the wrong way. Are we doing favor to the teacher? By listening, what will the teacher feel? Audio off kar do. Are we doing favor to the teacher or the Upanishad by participating and giving our presence? That is also not the right approach. The right approach is that we come to the teacher come to the satsang, come to the teacher, come to the Upanishad, come to the Guru Maharaj with respect and reverence and faith. Without these basic ingredients, knowledge will not take place. Because now, after so many years, we have heard everything. We know it. Still, it has not clicked. We are not abiding in it. And this is the cause that we have faith and reverence more in the world of relationships and possessions and memories than the Guru Maharaj, the satsang, or the scriptures. And what they are indicating, we have less faith in that even more. Yeah, self is okay, it's okay. But, how is knowing the self going to help me better my relationship with my kids who are not speaking to me? In the background, this type of talk is going on. Upanishads are not meant for this. Upanishad means Brahma Vidya. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma is Brahma Vidya. Your essence and my essence as a person is Brahma Vidya. The essence of the entire universe is Brahma Vidya. In fact, Brahma Vidya is in and through the entire universe. In other words, from Brahma Vidya's point of view, there is nothing but Brahma Vidya. But where are we caught up? Where are we stuck? We are stuck in, I want to know Brahma Vidya, I want to realize, I want to liberate, I want to have immortality. And this seeker, the student, Bhrigu, because the questions are by Bhrigu. He is a young boy. He's not grown up to go and kick Lord Vishnu yet in arrogance. He's still young. And his father is Varuni. Varuna's son is Varuni. Bhrugurvai Varuni. Pitaro is the father and he is the guru. Very difficult to accept someone near and dear as a guru and yet have the relationship. Or I should say it the other way, have relationship and yet accept them as a guru. See, when Swamiji used to tell us, in Bombay there was one couple, Tamilian couple, not Tamilian, sorry, Malayali couple, and the man went to Kerala, got married, brought the wife, young girl, 19, 20 years old, in a one kholi apartment, one room up, one matchbox apartment. And after first day, after arriving, only husband and wife, parents are in Kerala, boys' parents are also in Kerala. And she took one table and set up her Krishna Bhagwan, Guruvayurappa, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Oh my God. In the evening when the husband came back from work, he was a communist. He took the whole thing and screamed at this young girl who has come, who is out of her comfort zone, first day into marriage, in Bombay. And he says, in my house, there will be no God. Now what to do? She can't even reply back. He is the bread earner. He is the elder to her. And she's only 20, naive. Never, first time going out of her house. And she cried for 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. After a few days or weeks of crying, not showing in front of the husband, but during the day she's free. So all she used to do is cry. Now what to do? One day she asked, while crying, when she reached the peak, now no more. What can be done? There's no solution only. She called the Lord, oh Guruvayurappa, what do I do from now on? And in that frustration, suddenly the answer came to her that if I am not only outside in a statue, in an altar, I am in your heart. You do Manasik Puja. And she started doing Manasik Puja. See how life propels us to grow further and expand our consciousness. She started doing Manasik Puja, and the moment she started that, she was happy. Husband was also surprised. Maine danda, she didn't react, she did not complain, she did not do anything. And like this, life went on, children were born, and eventually later in their life, they met Swamiji, or probably few decades, they were in touch with him. And one day Swamiji went to their house for bhiksha, and the wife said, Swamiji, after such a long time you have come to us, I want to confess something. In their old age, they are in their 90s. And she says, my husband is my guru. He said, please explain. This is after food. She says, if he had not stopped my puja, I would not have discovered Krishna in my heart. See what a great statement. She was always happy. unconcerned, always prasanna chetas. She says, if my husband had not stopped me from doing puja the first day when I arrived in Bombay, I would not have discovered the close relationship that I have with Krishna in my heart. And I don't want to go into what else she said. When she said this, the husband who was sitting there listening, tears in his eyes, he looked at his wife, then looked at Swamiji, and then through some sobs, he said, Swamiji, first time I'm accepting it. First time I'm owning it. That truly speaking, this woman has changed my life. She is my guru. This hard nut that I was, communist, non-believer in the higher. But seeing her happiness, seeing her sacrifice, seeing her surrender, seeing her happy disposition for last 40, 50, 60 years, never complained even once. I was forced to think, forced to contemplate, what is it that which is making her so happy? It can't be me, because I have always been harsh in the early years. I was always demanding, I was always critical. And somewhere in his 40s, 50s, maybe after retirement, this shift came in him. What is that which is making my wife always happy and free? Why there is a sparkle in her eye? When I started contemplating, then I started seeing. And then, without telling her, within himself, in his own mind, he converted to become a devotee. And that day, he accepted in front of Swamiji. Are we as seekers ready to expand our consciousness so that it becomes infinite? Or are we going to insist that we are this crystallized individual who is the son of someone and father of someone or mother of someone or sister of someone? Get enough. Ho gaya yaar. It's high time. 50, 60, 70, all these decades are presented here on the screen. You see? Enough. Ho gaya. Bahut ho gaya. Enough. Till now, this approach has not given us the result. Something needs to change. Bhrigu, in the first and second chapter, he has got all the knowledge, but nothing has changed. No abidance. Experience is not there. Doubt is also not there, but experience is not there. Because second chapter, the Brahmananda Valli, it removed all the doubts as regards Brahman. But direct experience, aparoksha anubhuti of that Brahman, that is still the missing in Bhrigu's life. See? So when we assess ourselves in our daily life, question is, do we assess ourselves every day? Or just living at a default level? Ut gaye, chalo brush karna hai. After that, breakfast karna hai. After that, satsang karna hai. After that, let's prepare dinner. All happening, yes, because we are caught up in that cycle. Okay, we are caught up in cycle. Are we living alertly? Are we living with awareness? Are we living with drashta bhav towards whatever is taking place? Bhrigu, he has come to recognize that, yes, he has the knowledge, he has the intellectual understanding, but abidance in the self as the self, or recognizing the self as the Brahman, this is still absent. And therefore, with deep respect and reverence, In South India, not in South India, in Maharashtra, in Konkan, the girls, the married ladies, they call their husband Deva. They don't say Oji, Oji nahi. They don't call them Patidev. They don't call them Patidev. They don't. Nowadays they call them by name. But if you go there, I know a few people here from Konkan, they call them Deva. Deva is godly being. Now that has become a Takya Kalam. They're doing it by default without experiencing the divinity in them, fighting every day. See, नाम है नारायण और लक्षण है चोर के कैसे चलेगा? So Bhrigu here also, I won't say he's frustrated, but it is a natural consequence that when we have been deeply reflecting on the truth, that is what we are doing here, or you have been doing with Mataji, or for so many years in the satsang, the reflection is only for one purpose: to remove all the doubts with reference to what your true nature is. And the doubt is always about few things. What is that? The doubt is always about who am I? Who is God? What is this Jagat? Jeev Jagat Ishvara? What is this Jagat? And what is my spiritual practice in order to find to seek the essence, how that one is expressing as these three, or what is the source of these three? Both ways. And unless we don't address this, and this was done in the second chapter, the source was, one moment, I got a call coming, but I'll cancel it. Oh yeah, how do I go? Gone. You can hear, right? Yeah. So how do we Jeev Jagat Ishwar? How do we find out what is the source of Jeev Jagat Ishwar? Intellectually, Bhrigu has understood. Experientially, there is zero. Zero experience. And this is our case also, isn't it, in life? We understand everything. When a satsang is going on, whoever the teacher may be, automatically your thoughts go to the next thought. But the moment you go out of satsang, all the thoughts have taken a trip. All your understanding has been hijacked by the world, hijacked by the relations, hijacked by hunger and thirst, hijacked by whatever, by the world. For that, something has to be done. Arjuna also said the same thing to Krishna after the 12th and after he had the Vishwarup Darshan, and after that 13th chapter especially, the Kshetrajna, when he was told, he says, yeah, I understand everything, Krishna, what you are telling me. But then why is my mind not remaining steady in that? Then he talked about the three gunas. But to overcome the three gunas, so you have understood who you are. Now question is of abidance. And for that, here, Bhrigurvai Varunihi Varunam Pitaram Upasasara Adihi Bhagavo Brahmeti Tasma Etat Provacha Annam Pranam Chakshu Shrotram Manovachamiti. How do we approach a teacher? Yaar Swamiji, I wanted to ask you something. It is, it's not my question. Someone was asking me, and I was really concerned about that person. will Mataji answer? Maybe she will answer. She is very soft. I will not answer. Her masters will not answer. So there is a way how you approach. Samit Panihi Shrotri Brahmanishtham. Samit Panihi. With complete, having achieved complete dispassion towards the world. And what is the world? Name and form. What is the world? Relationships and possessions. What is the world? Expectation and regrets of past and future. What is dispassion? Dispassion towards the world? Depends where your attention is. Dispassion is also that now there is nothing to be achieved from this world of names and forms. You don't know the answer. This dispassion is almost like a stage of pratyahara. Pratyahara is where mind has returned. It's even if the senses are open, the mind is not leaking out of the senses into the world. It is seeing everything, but it is not interested only. Like you are sitting here in front of in the satsang, there are so many things in your room. Are you interested in any one of them? Now find out what is that disposition that you are focused on the satsang but disinterested in everything in the room. With the same disposition, we must approach the teacher. We must approach the Upanishads. We must approach the satsang. Disinterested in everything in this world. We know it is there, but we are not with no interest. Why? It's empty. It has not given us anything except trouble till today. Only small joys here and there, but long-term trouble. First, we had to listen to our parents, then we had to listen to our wife, then we had to listen to our children. We have always been listening. Where is our freedom then? Then we have to listen to our grandchildren. So when were we living for ourselves? Hardly. Enough. So Bhrigur Vai Varunihi, here he says, what does he say? He says, Bhrigu, the son of Varuna, approached his father. So this approach should be with respect and reverence. Samit Panihi, and Varuna requested. Bhrigu, oh revered sir, he did not ask. He did not ask many long. Sometimes people come here, or just now the call was coming. Yesterday also I was at someone's house. Swamiji, can you come? I said, okay. They're giving me a lecture of everything that they understand. So what have you called me for? Have you called me to tell me how the world is? I already know it. Have you called me to tell me how your mind is? I already know it. So don't tell me what I already know. If you have called me, then use that time. But after half an hour of deliberations, then they come to the point. That too also beating around the bush. Then we have to bring them to the point. They don't want to accept that they are they're entangled in the world. They don't want to accept that yes, I am of the nature of Parabrahma Paramatma, but I have no experience of it. They are not ready to accept. They are not ready to accept that they don't know. That is the first step. Without that step, we will not approach a master. And Bhrigu, he has studied the first Valli, second Valli, he has all the information, all the knowledge. Yet he was truthful to himself, not to anyone in the world, truthful to himself, that this abidance is still eluding me. And therefore, he did not ask what sadhana, he did not ask what practices should I do, he did not ask how do I remove the world from my mind, he did not ask who is God, he did not ask about anything except teach me Brahman. Where are we? Adhihi Bhagavo Brahmeti. Oh sir, oh revered sir, not father. Father will be addressing the son. He says, oh teacher, like that couple. The wife said, he's my guru. Husband said, she's my guru. At least they realize that in their 90s. Many people live only at default and pass away from this life without realizing the guru within and without. To accept the teacher in the husband, you have to accept the teacher within you first. That is self-reflection. So here he's not addressing his father, he's addressing his teacher. He says, teach me Brahman. No beating about the bush, no paraphernalia. Straight to the point. Like in Kathopanishad, Nachiket, when Lord Death, in the third question, he says, Lord Death says, Nachiket, ask me the third boon quickly. I don't want to remain indebted to you. Nachiket says, sir, some people say consciousness is that after death there is consciousness, or life is there after death, or soul is there after death. And some people say it is not there. What is the truth? Nachiket says, please instruct me. And why you should instruct me? Because you know it. You are the Lord of the death. Who can say that? Who has complete faith and reverence. We go with a judgment to the teacher. What will he know? Let me check. Ask one or two questions. Say some verse which they have by-hearted in Bhagavad Gita somewhere. That's why I don't answer these. I don't know Sanskrit. What is that person trying to prove? Yesterday also it happened. They said some verse from Bhagavad Gita. I was addressing the wife. I didn't even look at them. But Swamiji, what comes after this? I said, I don't know. I don't know Bhagavad Gita. Story over. Are you here to test the teacher? Has Bhrigu gone to his father to test how much he is abiding in knowledge? Or has he gone to his father? He knows he's the father, but now he's addressing the teacher in the father. And that address to the teacher is with this urge, this urgency to abide in the truth. Do we have that urgency within ourselves? Because once that urgency comes, the teacher will appear in your life who can address that urgency. This is my experience. This must be your experience also. But it has to be a continuous, because questions keep coming and we have to resolve. And what does the teacher do? Teacher doesn't give you an answer. A true teacher will only instruct you in such a manner that you find your own answers within yourself. So whatever is the source from where the questions are coming, that source alone can give you the answers also. But what is our habit? We ask questions outside. We want answers from outside and twiddle our thumbs sitting in a satsang. Okay, chalo, bahut acha satsang tha. It was my question. And they ask the same question to every teacher they come across. You must have seen such characters in your life. Or maybe we have been such a character in our life, in other people's life. See, so, this type of approach is not going to take us anywhere. It will just keep us in the loop. Question, answer, question, answer. It is an objective approach. You are asking outside and you are expecting an answer from outside. And when you listen to the answer, that was whatever I read, I think it matches that. I think he knows. I think he's realized. I think he's a great master. I think he's a great Swami. Who are you to judge? हिंदी में बोलते हैं तुम्हारी औकात क्या है? You are not qualified to judge a master. The qualification of a seeker is only to have faith and reverence towards the scripture or the teacher to whom he is approaching. In fact, he should be having faith and reverence towards life. And that life has brought him to this juncture where he has understood life as he knew it is zero. I want to abide in the true essence of life. And scriptures are saying that is me, and I'm missing the target every time. Maybe I've got a glimpse here and there, but I am not able to abide. Where am I going wrong? This is subjective approach. This is subjective approach. When your attention is on yourself, teach me Brahman. He did not say, teach me the way to Brahman. He did not say, teach me the technique of knowing Brahman. He did not say, teach me this, teach me that. He just said, teach me Brahman. In Kenopanishad, the student asks the teacher that Kene Shitam, Preshitam Manaha, and so on. So the teacher says, oh, what is the inspiration behind the senses and the mind and the prana? The teacher answers that chakshuhu, what is that? Shrotrasya Shrotram, Chakshusasya Chakshuhu. It's the mind of the mind, it is the eye of the eye, it is the ear of the ear, and so on. He says, I asked you a simple question, sir, and you are telling me mind of the mind, eye of the eye, ear of the ear. Why can't you answer me straight? Why are you talking in circles? In the second verse itself, the teacher tells the student, you are asking that which cannot be spoken about. You have seen Harry Potter, no? The one who should not be named, Voldemort. That is the negative one. Here it is the Atman or the Brahman itself. That to which yato vacho nivartante. No word can stick to it. So he cannot be named. We can only talk about it in these self-contradicting language. We don't know. We don't know how to explain Brahman. This is the best we can do. You asked a question, I answered. Now it is your responsibility to go and work it out. Don't come back. Don't disturb us. He didn't say all that. I'm just making light of it. But this is how we know how to communicate, because this is how my teacher communicated to me. It is not that I don't know and I don't want to communicate. No, this is how it was communicated by my teacher. Because this principle, this Atmic principle, this Brahman is beyond speech. It's beyond comprehension of mind. And then afterwards, when the student says, I understood, he gives him a reprimand. I told you it cannot be understood and you said it's, I understood. Go meditate again. Same thing will happen here also now. He will keep going and keep coming back. He will keep going and keep coming back till it clicks to him. But every time this student, like the Kena Upanishad student, this student also, in fact, every student in all the Upanishads have already worked out that there are no permanent answers in this world. That there are no permanent answers. So they always, whenever you read a Upanishad, the question is always direct, without any ambiguity. The question is always about the supreme reality. So he says here, Varuna said thus to him. Now, naturally, when the father, he is also seeing his son, but now he is seeing the disposition of his son. His son is not approaching him as a father. Now it's the other way around. First, we are talking about from Bhrigu's point of view, now father's point of view. Varuni. He is seeing, just like Ramakrishna Paramahansa, he was waiting for Vivekananda for so many years. Tapon Maharaj, he was waiting for Chinmayananda for so many years. Yukteswar Maharaj, he was waiting for Paramahansa Yogananda for so many years. Krishna was waiting for Arjuna, and Arjuna became available to him only on the battlefield at the age of 86. My God, what a long wait. All knowledge is there, but it can be presented, it can be shared only when someone is available. Are we available? It is not, there is no dearth of teachers. There is no dearth of masters. That is not your responsibility as a seeker. You become available, the master appears in your life. And here he found the master in his own home, in his own father. So wonderful. Majority of the times, father and son don't get along together after the child grows up. Shukdevji Maharaj, he got up and he walked away. He didn't want to do anything with his father. Shankaracharya, age of 8, he left the home also. Even mother, he did not want to do anything. Because the urgency to know, this urgency is required. This bhav has to be always there, even while listening, while speaking. This bhav has to be there. Then see how things will start toppling. All the world will crumble in front of your own eyes. The world will just vanish from your mind. When this urgency, when you have the urgency to go to sleep, you don't make the world go out of your mind. The world leaves your mind because you're not available to it. You are available to the thought of sleep. Are we available to the self? Are we available to the infinite? Are we available to us being not us as the body, but us as the self, being the all-encompassing principle? Are we available? Are we available to the instruction? And when an instruction is given, if the student has come in the right manner, respect, reverence, and faith, he will not question what the teacher has said. He will not question what the Upanishad has said. Instead, he will take that statement and he will brood over it. He will contemplate over it. He will try to find ways. If this is the statement that has been made, Tattvamasi, Nisargadatta Maharaj, when he was told, only one satsang he attended in his life in his late 40s or mid 40s. And he came back to the room. He asked the teacher in Ramakrishna Ashram in Bombay, Khar. He asked, I understood everything that you tell. Now what? Then who am I? Swamiji there, he said, Tattvamasi, you are that. He came home, he handed over the cigarette shop and BD shop to his son. Locked, it was only one room apartment, kholi, in a chawl. The mother and the son, they were sleeping in the kitchen plus bathroom plus dining area all in one. And one room which was there, he occupied. 2 years later, he came out, he roared, I am that. He roared, I am that. There was no doubt, complete transformation. And here we are, satsang after satsang, scripture after scripture, meditation after meditation, and no lasting change. No lasting change. No expansion of consciousness. No peace of mind. No focus. Still at the mercy of our mind. So when the student is asking the teacher and the teacher is giving the instruction, that instruction is taken as Brahma Vakya. There is no question of any discussion. There is no question of any argument. There is no question of any doubt. The approach of the student is only one. That the teacher has said this, now I have to make it my reality. He will go and reflect and contemplate. He has heard. The teacher said, whatever he will say now, what did he say? Annam pranam chakshu shrotram manovacham iti. This is the instruction. The student goes away. And the father is also, the teacher also is of a unique caliber. He is also not beating around the bush. He looks at the son and he's happy that the son has not approached to him as a father. The son has approached to him as the disciple. Every teacher is looking for a worthy disciple. Not looking, he's happy when a disciple presents himself with such focus, with such clarity, with such dispassion. I gave you some examples before. So he is also very happy. You know, uncooked teachers, you ask them one question, they'll give you a whole commentary. Varuni did not give a commentary. Annam pranam chakshu shrotram manovacham iti. Only one straight answer. What you do with this statement is your problem. I am not going to add any word to it. I am not going to subtract any word to it from it. We must invoke the hidden caliber, the hidden potential within us to understand the implication of this statement. Annam pranam chakshu shrotram vachamiti. No, but what is the relationship between all these words? You work it out. Why this word first? Why not vacha first? You work it out. Why in this particular order? Get out from here. No place for all these questions. Question is, the instruction is given. Just like Atha Yoga Anushasanam. These are the instructions. What are the instructions? Chitta vritti nirodha iti yogaha. Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. Instruction is given. If someone understands these two verses in their entirety subjectively, they don't need to study the 571 sutras in Patanjali Yoga Sutra afterwards. But we have to correctly understand what means Chitta Vritti Nirodha iti Yoga. What does it mean? Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. Then why did they write all the other sutras? Because this stupid student, he did not understand Tadadrashtu Swarupe Avasthanam. He did not, why, forget about Tadadrashtu, he did not even understand Chitta Vritti Nirodha Iti Yoga. So he asks, what are the different types of my mind? I don't know. Please, teacher, tell me what are the different, what is mind? Now teacher understands that this student is still at a very low level. He's not ready to abide. He wants information. Then he says, mind is what? Kshipta, Vikshipta, Moodha, Ekagra, Niruddha. These are the 5 types of mind. And then from that, then he doesn't understand that, or the understanding is incomplete. So the next question, so the next question, so the next question. Eventually he says, oh, I cannot make my mind focused. How do I make my mind focused? He says, Ishwar Pranidhanadva, think of the Ishwara. Again, he is confused. How do I think of the Ishwar? Bloody hell, making me speak for unnecessarily for so much. Then he says, through Om, you can think of Ishwar. So answer was, instruction was only 2. Chitta Vritti Nirodha Iti Yoga, Tadadrashtu Swarupe Avasthanam. And that student must have gone for Chitta Vritti Nirodha, but was not successful. So he came back. Here, the student, when he hears Annam Pranam Chakshu Shotram Mano Vacham Iti, he in saying this, what is the understanding that is being communicated by the teacher to the student? That all this is Brahman, the source of Annam, Pranam, Chakshu, Shotra, Mana, Vacha. The source of all these is Brahman. Brahman alone is expressing as all these. Go, contemplate. This is what teacher, he is not giving all this commentary. We are telling you. Teacher only made that statement. He has left how to work it out, how to contemplate on the student. The GPS shows you the shortest way to a destination. But you have to drive, man. You have to walk out. You have to make sure that you don't take the wrong turn. So teacher has given the instruction. Now we have to make sure that we follow the instruction, we contemplate on it, we reflect and contemplate on it. And unfold the hidden meaning when because remember what the question was. Question was, teach me Brahman. Did he say Satyam Nanam Anandam Brahma? He already said it last in the last chapter. He already told that Brahman is it's an unknowable. Mind cannot know it. Words cannot reveal it. Already has been told in the 2nd chapter. And yet here he is saying, when the question is asked, teach me Brahman, he says this statement, Annam Pranam Chakshu Shotram Mano Vachamiti. Brahman is Annam, Brahman is Pranam, Brahman is Chakshu, Brahma is Shotram, Brahman is Manaha, Brahman is Vacham, Vacha. Yesterday when I went to someone's house, they are saying, Swamiji, today's kids, they are not listening to us, and we were so dutiful, we were so submissive, we were so accepting of the circumstances that we were in, that we got into, married into a family, the mother-in-law was like this, the father-in-law was like this, the sister-in-laws were like this, the husband were like this, and coming to a new house, we just accepted it in the stride. But today's kids, they are not accepting even the parents. Why? I said, wrong question. Remove the why, as our Swamiji says. Then what is the answer? The kids do not respect the parents the way you did. Full stop. That is the answer. Accept it. Accept it. That time was different. Today it is different. Accept it. Our problem is not non-acceptance. Our problem is non-acceptance that we are essentially Brahman. Acceptance is not there. Why? So many distractions. The son comes in front of you, oh, I am the mother. The food comes in front of you, oh, I am hungry. I am hungry. It doesn't say I am Brahman. Grandchild comes, I am grandmother. Oh, so sweet, so wonderful, so cuddly. Where does Brahman go that time? So this Brahman, the teacher is, from teacher's point of view, this Brahman is the substratum of all these annam, pranam, chakshu, shotram, manovachamiti. And in other words, by saying these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, by saying these 6, he is just saying that Brahman is the substratum of the entire creation. Now again, creation, what is the meaning of creation? That you must be clear. Is it only the waking creation? Or is it the waking dream deep sleep creation? Is it the gross creation? Is it the subtle creation? Is it the absence of creation, which is, when you say there is void, there is deep sleep, is that a thing to be, is that a part of creation? So come to the correct assessment of your experience also, of the words also. So when the teacher says that it is part of the, is the substratum of the whole universe, it is very clear. It's very clear that water is the substratum of all the oceans, all the waves, all the ripples, all the froth, all the drops, all the foam. That is its natural state. So what will be the, what sadhana does any one of these? Ocean, wave, ripple, tsunami, tide, droplet, foam. What sadhana they have to do to realize the water? If your mind is thinking that something needs to be done, then you are like Bhrigu. Answer is, nothing needs to be done. You are already that. Every wave is already water. Then what? But then why I can't realize that I am the water? If I am already the Atma or the Brahman, then why am I not able to realize it? Why am I not able to abide in it? Why am I not having a direct experience of that realization? I understand what you're saying, sir, but why am I not? From student's point of view, if this question is arising, it is only because the student is still identified with the form. He's still identified with the body. And remember, body does not mean only physical body. Body means Annamaya Kosh, Pranamaya Kosh, what do you call? Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanmaya, and Anandmaya Kosh. These are the 5 koshas. And as long as you think you are the body, my mind is like this, my eyes are becoming weak, my hearing ability is going, my body is not, you are fully identified with the body. Stop talking about it. How many days we are going to talk about the same thing over and over and over again? The more you repeat, the more you become convinced you are the body. Why don't you, instead of saying all these things, why don't you take the name of the Lord? Then you will get identified with the Lord. And who is Lord? That's not part of the Upanishad, but just exercise. Who is Lord? Who is abiding in his own nature and has the Prakriti under his control. Who is Jiva? Who is also nothing but Brahman, but feeling that he is the slave of the Prakriti, slave of his own potentiality. The Lord, he is not slave of his potentiality, he is master of potentiality. And therefore, he is able to abide directly in his own essential nature. We are also abiding in our own essential nature, but we are at the mercy of Prakriti. What is Prakriti or Maya in our at our level? Prakriti or Maya is this Panchakosha. Anna Maya Kosha. Prana Maya Kosha. Mano Maya Kosha. Vijnana Maya Kosha. Anand Maya Kosha. These are the expressions of Maya. What is Maya? That which does not exist yet appears. As long as we are identified with this, we can never come to be who we essentially are. But all this has been already told in the previous chapters. All that data, the student, it must be at his fingertips. So just as water alone is, but is having different names. What are the different names of water? Ocean is one name at the level of totality. Wave is another name for the same water, individuality. Foam is another name. Tide is another name. Tsunami is another name. Drop is another name. Of the reality. Reality is unconditioned. All these expressions on the reality, which we don't say, I'm going to the waters. We always say, I'm going to the ocean. I played in the waves. You don't say, I played in the water. See? Because infinite doesn't have a form or a name. Infinite is not having any conditionings or limitations. It is free, swatantra. But that which is not swatantra, that which is conditioned by time, space, and objectivity, that appears to be that way, is actually only the superimposition on the reality. So what are the Panchakoshas? They are superimpositions on that reality. So just as, coming back to the point, just as water is pervading, is the substratum, is the foundation, is the common denominator of all expressions of water, similarly, teach me Brahman. Brahman is the common denominator and the material of what? Annam, pranam, chakshu, shrotra, mano, vachamiti. All these cannot be outside Brahman. It's not that these are there, I'm stuck in them, and from this I'm going to go back to Brahman. No. All these are just imaginations on Brahman. Brahman is the material that has gone into them. Brahman is supporting them. Brahman is the common denominator, the substratum of all these. And that Brahman, what was the instruction? I am. So it's all happening in me only. but it has not been realized yet. So in this manner, so here the teacher, when he says these annam pranam chakshu shrotra manovachamitim, he is trying to, when we communicate with water, we only communicate with water through some word, through some expression of that water. What is the expression or manifestation of that water? It is ocean is one manifestation, wave is another manifestation. Same way, how do we relate to gold? Oh, we relate to gold. Oh, it is a gold necklace, it is a gold ring, it is a gold this. So similarly, everything in this creation, everything in this universe is nothing but that Brahman. It is Brahman alone is the substratum of it and the material going through it, but you are seeing it as Annam, Chakshu, Shrotra, etc. Now go contemplate. Annam is the word for all the gross. Annam is another word for annam is food. Now again, your understanding of food and my understanding of food, or Radhika's understanding of food, or everyone's understanding will be different. For child, chocolate is food. But when we come to the Upanishads, very commonly, what is food? That which nourishes. What nourishes you? What nourishes your body? The dal, roti, chawal, sabji. That nourishes you. What nourishes your eyes? Forms and colors nourish your eyes. What nourishes the ears? The sound nourishes the ears. Presence of sound or absence of sound nourishes the ears. If it is a screeching noise, I don't want to hear it again. If it is an interesting lecture, I want to hear it again. If it is a beautiful bhajan, I want to hear it again. It nourishes your ears. See, it's the food for the ears. It's the ahuti for the ears. And in fact, this body is made out of food only. Everything that you see, hear, touch, feel, taste, where are these five senses? They are in the body. They are part of the body, inseparable from the body. What is nourishing them? Whatever they see, hear, touch, feel, taste is nourishing them. See, can all these nourishments, are they existing independent of the body or the five senses? No. The moment five senses came into existence, simultaneously, the food also came into existence. See, ये मजेदार मजे वाली बात है ये. ऐसे सोचने लगोगे तो आनंद आ जाएगा. The moment you wake up, before waking up, there was no world, there was no I, manifestation of I, there was no mind. The moment you wake up, that very moment, space, air, fire, water, earth, past, present, future, everything appears simultaneously. Father, mother, daughter, sister, everything appears. Ekdam khatak karke. And the moment you withdraw, that's up to your acumen. Either it goes away slowly, or person like me, the moment I lie down, I'm gone. 10 seconds, I'm gone. No time. Ki, oh, this thought has to go out of my mind, that thought, why sleep is not coming? Let me turn this way and find out if this is a good position. Let me turn that way. No. Touch the pillow, gone. See? So simultaneously. So, and where is the all the stimuli out there, nourishments out there, the food out there was created simultaneously for the devourer of the food. That is the senses and the body. Where are the senses and the body? What are they sustained by? Prana. Without prana, there is no body possible. Where is body and prana? What are they sustained by? What is their cause? What is their source? Their source is the mind. What is the source of the mind? The source is the intellect, the I. What is the source of the intellect? Then we will, that is Brahman. Where is this intellect, mind, pranas, and what was that? Senses, speech at the body level. Speech here, vacha means speech. It is representing the organs of actions. All these, where are they? In the mind. Mind alone has become the body and the five senses. Just like gold itself has become the ornaments, similarly, self alone is the material out of which the five koshas have manifested. Where are gold? Where are the ornaments? They are existing in their own absence. Where are these panchakoshas? Existing in their own absence. But let's not go there. To come to the mind. In the mind, this body is a concept, is a thought. In our mind, these five senses are a thought. In our mind, all the stimuli are the food for the senses and the body. So in other words, mind eating mind. If you take further, Brahmarpanam Brahmavi, Brahmagnav Brahmanahutam, Brahman eating Brahman. Because the essence of mind, which cannot be comprehended by the mind, is the reality. Every contemplation must conclude in this manner. It must conclude in this manner. Otherwise, we are just superficially interacting with the information, with the Upanishad, without making it our own, without being, not recognizing, being the essence. What is being taught here in the Upanishad is you, through the example of Bhrigu. टाइम हो गया यार, ऑलरेडी 11:55 हो गया. I didn't cover much. तगंहोवाच यतो वा इमानि भूतानि जायन्ते येन जातानि जीवन्ति यत्प्रयन्त्यभिसंविशन्ति तद्विजिज्ञासस्व तद्ब्रह्मेति सतपोतप्यत सतपस्तप्त्वा. So after he realized that the student, when he is told this about all these mind, speech, and annam and chakshu and vacha, everything, when he contemplates on this, and the teacher, after giving, he said, what does he say? Tagangho vacha. Then the teacher said, what? Yato va imani bhutani jayante. He says that from which these beings are born, yena jatani jivanti, that by which, having been born, these beings live and live and continue to exist, and yat prayanti abhisamvishanti, and into that which when they depart or conclude, they go back to, they all enter pravishanti, go back or enter into that seeker. Tad vijijnasasva. He did not say, I will tell you. No, you have to find out. That one from which everything comes out, everything is maintained and existing, and into which everything again re-enters from where it came out. That understand to be Brahman. Tat vijijnasasva. Very important word. That is Brahman. Now it is left to the student, to Bhrigu and to us, to realize that from which everything comes and everything stays and everything goes back to is the self. That you have to work it out. You have to analyze. You have to analyze your experience. You have to contemplate and reflect. Subjectively, not intellectually. How waker, dreamer, sleeper, along with the waking world, dream world, sleep world means absence of the two, they all come out of whom? They don't come out from somewhere else. They come out of me. I am knowing. I am aware. Don't I know that yesterday the waking came and went, the dream came and went, the sleep came and went? Don't you know that this morning waking happened? That last night I had a wonderful sleep? So that means the one who knows these three is necessarily other than these three. We have to develop the poise. We have to develop the acumen so that we can remain in that disposition from where we are able to remain watchful, undisturbed of the coming and goings of everything and anything. But what happens? We get attached to, identify with whatever is coming and going. The one who gets attached or identified, he is called a jiva. This jiva, as Bhrigu or us, is doing contemplation. He is gone to the teacher. Because he is not ready to accept. So the teacher has said, oh, the entire world, the substratum of entire world is Brahman. And what is Brahman? Again, another, out of which everything is born, in which everything is meant existing, and into which everything goes back to. Oh Bhrigu, understand, know that, tad vijijnasasva, that which you are seeking to know is Brahman. That is Brahman. You come to know, you come to realize it yourself. And this knowledge, here the teacher doesn't have to again and again repeat like we are repeating. It is not the mind knowledge, okay? It is not the intellectual knowledge, okay? Because this student, Bhrigu, he already knows, yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. So it's a special disposition. For that, complete ekagrachit, complete focus, without efforts. That disposition has to come about. Concluding, then what? That is Brahman. He, Bhrigu, performed penance, and after having done, then he said, what did he say? Tad vijijnasasva tad brahmeti. That is Brahman. How will you come to know? Satapo tapyata. Go and do tapasya. Satapo tapyata. Satapas taptva. And he goes. He doesn't stand there and argue. He doesn't stand there and discuss. He doesn't stand there and ask for more clarification. He doesn't say, but if maybe generally, what if other people think like this? Get out from here. No place for you. You're not qualified then. If too many questions are coming, You are addicted to questions and you are not subjective. You are not ready. You are not accepting that from wherever the questions come, there alone the answer is available. And where did the questions come from? From me. Then where is the answer available? In me. Oh my God, again put you back, putting all responsibility back on me. I thought if you touch, I will realize. I thought if you touch my back, my Kundalini will rise. I thought you will, I'll ask and reply will be given. Yes, reply can be given. He is giving the reply, but answer he has to find inside himself only, as himself. And therefore, he goes away to contemplate. What he contemplates and how he contemplates and what conclusion he comes to. And again, with that realization, he comes to realize body is Brahman or something like that. Then he comes back to the teacher, and again the teacher will give him some instruction, only one-liner. And again he says, Tad vijijnasasva, tad brahmeti. So slowly, the student Bhrigu is moving from Annamaya to Pranamaya, Pranamaya to Manomaya, Manomaya to Vijnanmaya. And the teacher does not allow, teacher doesn't say anything. He has already studied the second chapter. The student is alert enough not to fall into the trap of Anandmaya Kosha, because getting into the trap of Anandmaya Kosha means going to sleep. He remains awake, he remains alert, he remains vigilant. About what? About his essential nature. And Upanishad ends. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva. What is that? Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. The Upanishad doesn't end. We